Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Hockey Talk with TG. I'm Ty Glenn, and you're listening to this on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you get your local podcast streaming platform. So hopefully you guys had a great weekend. Hopefully you had a great Mother's Day yesterday, celebrating all the hockey moms out there, and of course, all the moms in general. We're going to get into all the hockey news now. I'm going to recap the games from both Saturday and Sunday. But before I do, I just want to give you guys a quick reminder. Don't forget to buy my books, Rising Up, A Young Player's Journey to the NHL, and also Slapshot Struggles, the story of our middle school hockey team. Both these links will be down in the description below if you're watching this on YouTube. To all my Spotify, iHeartRadio, and other listeners, you can go to the Hockey Talk with TG YouTube channel and you can purchase these books. They'll be in the link in the description down below. Make sure to get your copy today. I probably won't be putting out another book in a while, so I want these to, kind of sell first. And then I'll put out another book. But until then, go ahead and get your copies of these two books right now. They'll be in the YouTube link in the description, so I'll drop the link to them, and you can get these off of Amazon. So if you guys did not listen to one of my previous podcasts, I said this before, these books are on Amazon and you can get your copy today. So I just wanted to throw out a quick reminder. If you have not got your purchase of my books already, go ahead, get them now. It's on Amazon and the link will be in the description. Now that we got that out the way, let's get into all the hockey news today. So the Panthers, they come back. They went 3-2 over the Boston Bruins in Game 4 yesterday. And now they lead the series 3-1. And they're one win away from advancing to the conference finals for the second straight year. Because they went last year. They got swept by Carolina. Not Carolina. They swept Carolina last year to go to the Stanley Cup final. So, yeah, one win away from advancing to the conference final for the second straight year. And Sam Bennett, he had the game-time goal. Alexander Barkov, he had the game-winning goal. And these goals were scored 3 minutes and 50 seconds apart. Now, I want to go back to that Sam Bennett goal. I feel like that goal should not have counted. You want to know why? Because he pushed Charlie Coyle into Jeremy Swayman and then ended up scoring. I don't know how that counted as a goal, but I feel like that should have not counted. I feel like that was just a little gimme kind of goal because the refs, they said the goal counted, so that was just a little gimme kind of goal right there, but I feel like that should not have counted. So we got to do better with officiating in the NHL, like for real, because I thought that was a stupid call for the refs right there. So I don't know why that goal had counted, but I feel like it should have not counted because he cross-checked Charlie Coyle into Jeremy Swayman, and they got away with it. So the rest kind of gave the Panthers that win right there. But hey, it is what it is. We'll see if the Bruins can come back down from a 3-1 series deficit and win in 7. Now, this was kind of the same scenario last year. The Bruins, you guys were up 3-1 last year against the Florida Panthers. And what happened? The Panthers came back. They won the series in 7. All hope is not lost, Boston Bruins fans. Wherever you're listening to this from, all hope is not lost. I believe it might be tough against Florida because I think the Panthers have been out shooting you guys the last couple of games, most recently this one. So it's going to be tough against a great team like the Florida Panthers. I will admit that. It's not going to be an easy fight. It is not going to be an easy fight, but all hope is not lost. I believe that you guys can come back from 3-1 series deficit, just like the Panthers did to you guys last year, and possibly win the series. So it's not going to be easy, but it is going to be challenging, and it's going to be tough along the way. But I believe Bruins can somehow get it done, or the Panthers will just beat them in 5. But I think at the start of the Stanley Cup playoffs, I had the Panthers winning this series in 6 games. possibly in 6 games. But we'll see what happens along the way. So like I mentioned a few seconds ago, the Panthers, they have been out shooting the Bruins in the last couple of games, most recently this one, 41-18. And this was also a physical game 4, by the way. Panthers had 48 hits, Bruins had 44 hits. And Sergei Bobrovsky, he made 16 saves on 18 shots, faced the net. And game 5 of this best of 7 series is tomorrow, May 14th. At 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time on ESPN. If you live up in the East, it'll come on at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. If you live out West, it'll come on at 4 o'clock p.m. Western Time. So, just depends on your location. All right, now that we moved on from that game, we'll see what happens in Game 5 tomorrow. See if the Bruins can force a Game 6 back in Beantown. Now we're going to go to the Canucks and Oilers. So this was a late night game. Some of you were probably asleep, while others of you, like myself, stayed up and watched the game. So the Canucks, they held on for the Game 3 win over the Edmonton Oilers. And Archer Ross made 42 saves on 45 shots faced in net. That was a career high in saves, both regular season and postseason. So he has certainly stepped up for the Vancouver Canucks. He has certainly taken over that starting role. Like ever since Thatcher Demko was out, and ever since, ever since Thatcher Demko was out, Archer Sivasov, hopefully I pronounced his name right. I was trying to listen to the other announcers, and people pronounced his name. So Archer Sivas, he has certainly taken over that starting goalie role. Believe it or not, whether you agree with me or not, I believe that Sivas has taken over that starting role ever since Thatcher Demko was out. And Casey Smith, he's now the backup, at least in this case. So like I said, Canucks lead the series 2-1, but the Oilers are the odds-on favorite to win the series. Now, if you guys did not see my Stanley Cup playoffs predictions video on the TG Hockey YouTube channel, P.S. if you're not subscribed to that, subscribe to it as soon as you get done watching or listening to this podcast. Oilers are odds-on favorite to win the series, but if you watch that video, you know that I said the Canucks will probably get it done in 5 or 6 games. It might go to 6 games. So I believe the Oilers can come back and, even up the series at 2 games apiece. They did outshot the Canucks 45-18. So they gave everything they can at Sheba Sauce, but nothing has showed for it. And Elias Lindholm and Brock Besser scored 2 goals apiece. I thought Brock Besser had the hat trick in the first period, but it looks like Elias Lindholm had tipped home that power play goal in the first period to tie the game up at 1 against the Edmonton Oilers. And speaking of the power play, both teams have scored on the power play. Canucks were 2 for 3 on the power play. Oilers were 2 to 4 on the power play now. Speaking of that Oilers power play, that's one thing that you have to watch out. Well, in this case, if you're a Canucks fan, because you guys are playing the Oilers. One thing that you have to watch out, it's the Oilers power play. That Oilers power play is lethal. It's perfection. It cannot be stopped. So when the Oilers go on the power play, I'm like, oh boy, here we go again. We got McDavid, we got Draisaitl out on the ice. They're probably going to put a power play going back in there. That's sometimes what I be thinking in my head, because nothing can stop that Oilers power play. Evan Bouchard, like I said, he made a 1-goal game, but it wasn't enough for the win. So we'll see what happens in Game 4 tomorrow night at 8:30 p.m. Central Time. If the Oilers can even up the series at 2 games apiece, or will the Canucks go up 3-1, and the Oilers will have their backs against the walls. Connor McDavid, he has been doing great so far throughout this playoffs. He has 17 points in the Stanley Cup playoffs so far. And Zach Hyman, he's been coming up big for the Edmonton Oilers, scoring 9 goals in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So he'd certainly be kind of like a quote-unquote force to be reckoned with. All right, now that we recapped Sunday's games, I know I said Saturday's games first on the podcast, but I somehow went to Sunday's games. But now we're going to recap Saturday's games. So the Hurricanes, they stay alive. with a Game 4 win over the New York Rangers. If you guys have listened to this podcast before, or if you're just new to this podcast, I started creating this podcast last week, so it's still trying to freshen in, if you will. But anyway, I said this on my podcast before. The Rangers will not sweep the Hurricanes. The Hurricanes will win Game 4. Believe it or not, I said it on my podcast. Or one time I said that, believe it or not. So the Hurricanes, they stay alive with that Game 4 win over the New York Rangers. So now the Rangers now lead this best-of-7 series, 3-1. So their 7-game win streak comes to an end. But it would have been cool to see the Rangers sweep both their first round and second round opponents, but it doesn't happen. But I think that's been done before. Brady Shea, he scored the game-winning goal on the power play with 3 minutes and 11 seconds to go in the third period. And, of course, former New York Ranger coming up clutch right there. And this was his first goal, believe it or not, of the Stanley Cup playoffs. And like I said, the Rangers go to 7-1 so far in their 2024 Stanley Cup playoffs. And Game 5 is today at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time on ESPN. If you're living up east, it'll come on at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. If you live out west, it'll probably come on at 4 o'clock p.m. Western Time. Now, we all seen teams who have won a series after being down 3-0. Most recently, the LA Kings did it in 2014 against the San Jose Sharks. Another team to do this, Philadelphia Flyers, in the 2010 second-round series against the Boston Bruins. The New York Islanders did it in their 1975 quarterfinals against the Pittsburgh Penguins. And the Toronto Maple Leafs did it in the 1942 Stanley Cup final against the Detroit Red Wings, and they won the Stanley Cup because that's back in the old days. I mean, Toronto ain't winning nothing now. I mean, the Raptors were the most recent Toronto team to win a championship in 2019 in the NBA Finals against the Golden State Warriors. And I think I heard that Toronto will be getting a new WNBA franchise. So we'll see if the Toronto WNBA team does better than the Maple Leafs, because the Maple Leafs ain't winning nothing. This ain't 1967. Okay, I'm done chirping the Maple Leafs, but I just wanted to make that point. That's been done before. Teams have came back down 3-0 and have won the series. So the Hurricanes can be another one of those teams if they win Game 5 tonight, if they win Game 6, and of course if they win Game 7. So we'll see what happens in Game 5 tonight. We'll move on to the Dallas Stars and Colorado Avalanche Game 3. So the Stars, they won Game 3. They lead the series 2-1. So they take their first series lead of this Stanley Cup playoff series against the Colorado Avalanche. And Jake Andre made 28 saves in the win. And Tyler Seguin and Logan Stankoven, they each scored 2 goals apiece for the Dallas Stars. One of them being empty netters. So one of their goals was like empty netters. And Game 4 is today at 8:30 p.m. Central Time on ESPN. So that will be after the Carolina Hurricanes and New York Rangers Game 5. Right there. So it will be an ESPN doubleheader. I think last week all the games were airing on TNT because the NBA games were on ESPN. This time going back to ESPN, and all the NHL games will air on there, at least the ones that's coming on today. Now we'll get into some more NHL news from this past weekend. So Sheldon Keefe was fired as head coach from the Toronto Maple Leafs. So we'll see if the Leafs can find another new head coach in replacements for Sheldon Keefe. But despite the Leafs having their first round exits throughout most of the time he was there as coach, I felt like he really was a great coach for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Despite that reason I just said, I think he did a great job in Toronto. And of course, I don't know who the Leafs will find next. I mean, there's some coaching candidates, like we could see Coach Q come back. Joe Quenneville, of course, he was the head coach of my Chicago Blackhawks during the dynasty years. I don't know if we could see him come back, but he could be a candidate. We could see Mike Babcock come back as head coach. I mean, I think he's coached the Leafs before. I know he coached the Red Wings, and I think he led the Red Wings to a Stanley Cup in 2008. So I remember him being head coach for the Red Wings. I know that part. I think he was head coach for the Leafs before, so we could see him back in front office right there for that Toronto Maple Leafs organization. We could see Craig Berube. Of course, he played a role he led the Blues to the Stanley Cup in 2019 against the Boston Bruins, so we could see him come back. Could see Dave Hackstall come back. Of course, he was fired as head coach of the Seattle Kraken, so he could be another candidate right there for the Toronto Maple Leafs. But let's talk about their players. So I know some people have been saying trade Mitch Marner. Personally, I don't know why, because Mitch Marner is one of your best players. So I don't know why would you trade one of your best players. But if they somehow do trade Mitch Marner, bring him over to Chicago. I know it won't happen. This is just me being delusional. I know it won't happen. But imagine Mitch Marner coming to the Chicago Blackhawks, playing with Bedard, and stuff like that. Would be sick right there. And yeah, I don't know what's going to be next with the Toronto Maple Leafs. I know they're going to be making some moves this upcoming off season, but we'll just have to see if they made the right moves, and yeah, we'll see what will happen next. I thought some this came from the Athletic magazine, so shout out to the Athletic. They said that this could be some coaching possibilities for Sheldon Keefe. Personally, my favorite, and this is one that I said before I saw this on the Athletic. He could be a coaching candidate for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Bring him back with Kyle Dubas, because during those years in Toronto, Kyle Dubas, he was the general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs, and Sheldon Keefe was the head coach then. So bring him to Pittsburgh, coach, and he'll be reunited with Kyle Dubas. Another one, I would probably say that they said Seattle Kraken. I mean, the Kraken, they have some young players like Matty Beniers, Shane Wright, and possibly some other great players that are on that team, and Sheldon Keefe could be the right coach for them. San Jose Sharks could be a great option. Of course, like the Chicago Blackhawks, they're also trying to rebuild, and I know they're going to be getting Macklin Celebrini at the 2024 NHL Draft. And they have a young team over there, and I think Sheldon Keefe could play a great role in that. Or bring him to the New Jersey Devils. I mean, the Devils, they fired Lindy Ruff. He's now the Sabres head coach. So bringing him with Jack Hughes, Nico Hischier, and Jesper Bratt, and all the other Devils players, I think that would be, kind of sick as well. So we'll just have to see what happens. And speaking of head coaching changes, Travis Green, he was hired as head coach of the Ottawa Senators. He previously coached I think it was the New Jersey Devils, if I'm not mistaken. He went 38-39-0 for the Devils, and the Devils, they missed out on the playoffs. Their last playoff appearance was, of course, last year against the New York Rangers. They would win in 7 against them, and of course, they would lose to the Carolina Hurricanes in the second round. Overall, Travis Green has coached the Vancouver Canucks and the New Jersey Devils. So now he's going to be head coach of the Ottawa Senators. And the Senators, they finished 37-41-4 of the regular season with 78 points. They're 26th in the league. They're 7th in the division. The last playoff appearance was 2017, where they lost in overtime to the Pittsburgh Penguins in that Eastern Conference Final series, which, of course, Doc Emrick called that game. I miss Doc, one of the best hockey play-by-play commentators, and I grew up listening to Doc Emrick along with Pat Foley, because you guys know I'm a Blackhawks fan. If you're new to the podcast, or if you're new to this channel, I am a huge Blackhawks fan. Of course, as you're watching this on YouTube, you see this Jonathan Tage banner right behind me. And, of course, you see my custom banner with me wearing number 88. Of course, that was Patrick Kane's number. So, yeah, I'm a huge Blackhawks fan. I grew up listening to Pat Foley call Blackhawks games. It was him and Eddie Olczyk, and that was just certainly a great time. Of course, like I mentioned, Doc Emmerich. So it's sad that they're both not play-by-play commentators anymore, but it is what it is. Chris Foster, he's okay. He's the new Blackhawks play-by-play commentator. Him and Darren Payne, they're okay. But of course, Pat Foley and Eddie Olczyk, that was like great times right there. And of course, Doc calling games on NBCSN. Those were certainly great times. Anyway, we'll see if the Senators can be back in the playoffs soon. I know they have that drought, but not as long as the Buffalo Sabres right there. So we got 2 NHL games on the slate for today. Of course, you got Game 5 between the Carolina Hurricanes and New York Rangers coming on at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time on ESPN. We'll see if the Hurricanes can force a Game 6 back at home in Raleigh, North Carolina, and become one of those teams to win a series after being down 3-0. And then we got Game 4 of the Dallas Stars and Colorado Avalanche at 8:30 p.m. Central Time on ESPN. So we'll see if the Avalanche can tie the series up, or will the Dallas Stars take both games on the road and go back home up 3-1 with a chance to go to the Western Conference Final. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this podcast here today. So just a couple reminders. Number 1, I said this at the start of the show. Don't forget to get your books. Slapshot Struggles, the story of our middle school hockey team, and of course, Rising Up, a young player's journey to the NHL. If you're watching this on YouTube, this will be in the description down below. So get your copy of these books today on Amazon. If you're listening on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your local podcast streaming platform, head on over to the Hockey Talk with TG YouTube channel and click on the link and get your copies of my books today. Of course, Rising Up, a young player's journey to the NHL, and Slapshot Struggles, the story of our middle school hockey team. So, yeah, these are both on Amazon. The link will be in the description down below, so you just click there. It will take you to there. You add it to the cart and order it. So, yeah, and if you think about it, post it on your social media and tag me in it. If you post it on Instagram, tag me at Ty the Hockey Boy right there. Or if you post it on TikTok, just tag me right there. So, yeah, that's just one announcement I wanted to make. Another announcement is to those of you who do not know, this podcast will be airing every weekday from 10:30 to 11. So 10:30 a.m. to 11 a.m. This is when this podcast will be airing. And this is your podcast. Your podcast, the number 1 podcast for all things hockey. So make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel and you follow on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this from. So, yeah. So you follow on there and subscribe to this channel as well, along with the TG Hockey channel. So to all my subscribers on the TG Hockey channel, subscribe to this Hockey Talk with TG podcast. This will be airing every weekday. Every weekday from 10:30 to 11. So I just wanted to make that announcement because in case some of you wondering, this guy hasn't uploaded a podcast Saturday or Sunday. Friday, there's no episode because things I had to do. So, yeah. I will tell you, I don't know what it's going to look like for the offseason. There probably won't be that much hockey to talk about. I will let you guys know after the final game of the Stanley Cup Final. So I'll let you guys know then when will this podcast be airing. But for right now, it's airing every weekday from 10:30 to 11 a.m. So make sure so if you want to stay up to date on all the latest hockey news, this is your podcast, Hockey Talk with TG, baby. So yeah, That's all I wanted to say. Thank you guys for tuning in. I love talking hockey with you guys, and it makes me feel better and great that you guys are listening, and I get to share my passion of hockey with you guys. I'll be back on here tomorrow to recap the game 5 of the Hurricanes and Rangers game right there, and of course game 4 of the Stars and Avalanche. So hopefully you guys have a great rest of your day. God first. Be blessed. I'll see you guys tomorrow on the Hockey Talk with TG podcast, and of course, peace.